I've always believed the worst pain isn't the one that comes from strangers. It's the one handed to you by someone you once trusted with your whole heart. That pain, it burns deeper. And the day I saw pages from my personal diary plastered all over the internet, I felt something inside me crack. Loudly, violently, beyond repair. My name is Morgan Fields. I was just your average, quiet high school senior trying to survive each day without completely falling apart. People saw a soft-spoken girl who smiled in the hallways and did her best to keep her head down. What they didn't see was what I carried inside. Childhood trauma, anxiety, the ache of being raised in a broken home, and the weight of secrets that no teenager should have to bear. I didn't have many friends, but the one person I thought I could trust was Alyssa. She was vibrant, confident, magnetic. Everything I wasn't. She took me under her wing freshman year when I transferred to West Creek High. And to me that felt like a gift. I didn't realize it would one day become a curse. I wrote in my diary every night. It wasn't just a habit, it was my only escape. When the noise of the world got too loud or the thoughts in my head grew too heavy, those pages held me together. That little floral notebook knew more about me than any living soul ever had. It knew about the bullying I faced in middle school, the way my stepdad used to scream, how I blamed myself for my mom walking out, and the depression I hid beneath layers of good grades and fake smiles. I never planned for anyone to read it. I certainly never imagined it would become public property. It all started the morning after Alyssa slept over at my house. We were supposed to be working on our college applications together. She left early, saying she had cheer practice. I didn't think twice about the way she looked at my bookshelf before walking out the door. By lunchtime the next day my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Notifications flooded in. Instagram tags, Twitter mentions, DMs from people I barely spoke to. I didn't understand what was happening until I clicked a link someone sent me. And there was my diary. Paragraphs copied and posted online. Word for word. Line by line. Titled, Secrets of the School's Saddest Girl. A gut punch. That's the only way I can describe what I felt. My chest tightened. My hands went numb. My vision blurred as I read the raw, bleeding pieces of myself on the screen. My trauma, my fears, my inner battles, exposed for ridicule. Alyssa's signature sarcasm decorated the captions. He framed it like a joke. You think you know someone, she'd written above one screenshot. Turns out she's been playing the tragic orphan act for sympathy. The comments were brutal. Some laughed. Some mocked. A few even reposted it. I couldn't breathe. I ran to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall. And for the first time in years I felt truly unsafe. Not physically but emotionally naked. Betrayed. Humiliated. I didn't go back to class that day. I barely made it home without breaking down on the sidewalk. I curled into a ball on my bedroom floor and sobbed until I had no tears left. The betrayal was too personal, too intentional. Alyssa had taken the only sacred part of me and served it to the world like entertainment. I don't know how long I lay there, completely shattered. But somewhere between heartbreak and hopelessness, something shifted inside me. Maybe it was rage. Maybe it was resolve. Maybe it was the quiet voice in me that had been silenced for too long finally speaking up. Whatever it was, it whispered. They've seen your truth. Now show them your strength. The next morning I woke up with swollen eyes and a heart that felt heavier than my body. I didn't want to face the world. Not school, not my so-called friends, not even my reflection. I felt exposed, like everyone had seen me at my most broken, and now there was nowhere left to hide. But then something strange happened. When I opened my phone I braced for more mockery. More messages poking fun at my pain. But instead my inbox was full of compassion. Hundreds of messages. Some from classmates who'd never spoken to me before. Some from total strangers. Your diary made me cry. I felt the same way for years. Thank you for putting it into words. I don't know you, but your pain is real. You're not alone. I used to think I was the only one who felt invisible. Reading your words gave me courage. Message after message poured in, raw, emotional, heartfelt responses from people who resonated with what I'd written in private. My story had touched something deep in them. And that's when it hit me. What Alyssa meant to use as a weapon had somehow become a bridge. My vulnerability, my pain, my truth. It wasn't just humiliating. It was healing for others. For the first time in my life, people were seeing me. Not the quiet girl in the back of the room. Not the weird kid with the sad eyes. But the real Morgan, the one who had been fighting silent battles for years. By the end of that week, my story had been reshared by mental health pages, teen support groups, and even a local nonprofit organization that advocated for youth emotional wellness. They didn't know it had been leaked. They only saw the rawness, the bravery, the heart in my words. I was asked if I'd written it to inspire others. That question broke something loose in me. I hadn't written those pages for anyone else. I wrote them to survive. And yet here they were, surviving others too. At school the shift was almost surreal. People who once ignored me now looked at me with softness, even admiration. A few teachers pulled me aside and said they were proud of how I was handling everything. Some students apologized for things they'd said years ago. Others started opening up about their own struggles. The most unexpected part? A few even thanked Alyssa. She did the school a favor, one girl said. We all needed to read that. Of course, Alyssa didn't take that well. At first, she basked in the attention. She thought she'd humiliated me beyond repair, crowned herself queen of petty revenge, and expected to ride the wave of popularity. But the wave turned quickly. The moment people realized she had leaked the diary to begin with, they didn't cheer. They turned cold. They saw her for what she was: jealous, spiteful, cruel. Even her closest circle began pulling away. She crossed a line, someone whispered near my locker. She weaponized trauma, another said. Who does that? Alyssa tried to spin it. Said it was all a joke. That I'd given her permission. That she didn't think it would go viral. But the damage was done. Her charm faded. Her followers dwindled. Her smug smile disappeared. And for the first time I didn't feel small around her. I stood taller. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I finally realized I didn't need her approval anymore. I had something more powerful than popularity: purpose. A few days later, I was invited to speak on a youth podcast about mental health and the importance of journaling. Me, Morgan Fields, the girl who once hid behind her notebook, now using that very notebook to amplify other people's voices. I said yes. And when I spoke, I didn't cry. I didn't stutter. I didn't apologize. I spoke from the same place those diary entries came from, my heart. And people listened. For the first time I felt seen, not because of how loud I was, but because of how honest I dared to be. That diary, once my secret lifeline, had become my platform. Alyssa wanted to destroy me. But she built something else instead. A fire in me that she couldn't extinguish no matter how hard she tried. You would think that after everything I would hate Alyssa. That I'd burn with rage and want revenge for the way she exposed my most vulnerable thoughts. But truthfully, I didn't have the energy to hate her. I was too busy becoming the version of myself that I used to only write about. After the podcast interview went live, things began moving faster than I could have imagined. I got messages from teen organizations, therapists, even college mental health programs that wanted to collaborate. Somehow, my brokenness had carved out a path I never saw coming. And people weren't just listening to me, they were feeling me. I launched an anonymous Instagram page called Diary of a Silent Fighter and began posting short quotes and passages from my old diary entries. Unedited, raw, imperfect. Every post was something I had once cried writing. And suddenly I wasn't alone anymore. Tens of thousands of people started following, commenting, messaging, sharing their own stories. There were girls in Brazil who said they'd tried ending it all until they read one of my posts. Boys in India who said no one ever let them feel soft until my words made it okay. Mothers, teachers, even celebrities started quoting me. It was overwhelming, but in the best way. I was still just Morgan from a small town, still waking up with anxiety, still healing. But no, I wasn't healing in isolation. I had become a voice for others still learning how to find theirs. And the irony? Alyssa watched it all unfold. From the back of the room, from behind a screen, from within the same school walls where she once ruled with flawless makeup and filtered selfies, she watched as the weird, awkward girl with no friends became unstoppable. She never apologized. Not really. She sent one half-hearted DM a few weeks after everything blew up. "Hey, I didn't mean for it to get that serious. Hope you're okay now. No hard feelings." I read it, then closed it. Because the old me would have begged for that message. Would have been grateful just to be acknowledged. But now, I didn't need her sorry. And I didn't need her silence either. What she did was cruel. But it also gave me the clearest vision I'd ever had. I had spent too long trying to shrink myself for people who would never see me anyway. Now I was done shrinking. At school, people still whispered about the whole thing. Especially when the local news station covered my story as part of a Teen Mental Health Awareness Week. Morgan Fields, the girl whose pain became her platform. I didn't wear the crown Alyssa dropped. I didn't want it. I made my own. She started fading from attention. Less followers. Less invites. Even her closest friends found their way out of her shadow. Not because of me, because people were starting to wake up. They began to see the difference between curated perfection and authentic truth. And truth? It always echoes longer. One day I passed her in the hallway. She looked tired. Her eyes didn't have that spark anymore. Her walk wasn't as confident. She was clutching her phone like a lifeline, scrolling hard, maybe hoping to reclaim whatever she felt slipping away. She looked at me. I looked back. And in that quiet second, I saw something in her I had never seen before. Regret. Maybe it wasn't for what she did. Maybe it was just because it didn't destroy me like she planned. Or maybe, just maybe, she realized she could never undo what she set in motion. Because the girl she tried to silence was now being heard across the world. The school year marched on. The seasons changed. But something inside me had already bloomed, and this time there was no turning back. I started getting invites to speak at small events, youth clubs, local libraries, and even a few high schools outside our district. Every time I stood before a group of teens, I carried my scars like badges. I didn't sugarcoat my pain. I didn't polish the truth. I told them what I wrote in my diary, unfiltered, trembling, real. Some of them cried. Some hugged me after. And many said they finally felt seen. One afternoon, a guidance counselor from our school stopped me in the hallway. Her eyes were kind but heavy. "Morgan," she said, "there's been a noticeable shift. Students are opening up more. Sharing. Seeking help. I think you started something." That sentence sat in my chest like fire. Me. The invisible girl. The journal-writing outcast. I started something. Soon what began as my own healing turned into a ripple effect. Students began organizing wellness clubs. One group printed my quotes and stuck them in bathroom mirrors, locker rooms, even on classroom doors. We called it Project Diary. The goal? Make every student feel less alone, even if all they ever saw was one honest sentence. But while my light grew, Alyssa's grip on the spotlight faded faster than I ever imagined. Her TikToks didn't get the same attention anymore. Her circle of friends thinned out. People weren't interested in perfection anymore. They were craving something real. She tried to rebrand herself. First as a wellness coach. Then as a mental health advocate. She even posted a video with a caption like, "Just because I smile doesn't mean I'm okay." The comment section turned on her almost instantly. "Didn't you leak someone's private diary? Didn't you bully Morgan for years?" People remembered. Pain has a long memory. But so does truth. One day during lunch, I walked into the school cafeteria and something strange happened. People clapped. Just started clapping. I stood there frozen, tray in hand, blinking like a deer in headlights. Then I realized what they were doing. It wasn't about popularity. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't even about sympathy. They were clapping because someone dared to be vulnerable in a world that taught us to hide. They were clapping because I had survived the exposure meant to break me, and turned it into fuel. A few tables over, I caught Alyssa staring. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't pretending. She looked like someone watching her reflection crack. And that's when I realized something else. She hadn't just exposed my diary. She had unintentionally exposed herself. The way she weaponized someone's pain. The way she sought control by crushing others. The way she envied anyone who dared to be raw while she hid behind filters. It all came to the surface, and no edit button could save her now. Later that week she tried to confront me. cornered me in the hallway near the lockers where teachers rarely walked by. "You think you're better than me now?" she hissed, voice low, sharp. I met her eyes. "Come, clear." "No," I said softly. "But I'm better than who I used to be." She scoffed, but I saw it again, that flicker of regret. Or maybe it was loss. Not just of popularity or clout, but of her power over me. Because I didn't flinch. She couldn't bend me anymore. She couldn't hurt someone who had already faced the worst and survived. As she walked away, shoulders tense, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt free. And that's the thing no bully ever prepares for. When the person they tried to break learns how to stand tall, without needing to knock them down in return. Months passed. My life wasn't some overnight fairy tale. But little by little the weight on my chest began to lift. I started journaling again, not in fear but with purpose. Each page wasn't just for me anymore. It was for the girl who cried in the bathroom stall. For the boy who laughed too loud to hide his sadness. For the quiet ones sitting alone at lunch, pretending not to care. One evening, I got an email from a local news producer. They had heard about Project Diary, the movement Alyssa accidentally ignited when she tried to humiliate me. "We're doing a segment on student-led mental health advocacy," the email read. "Would you be willing to share your story on camera?" I stared at the screen for a long time. The old me would have said no. But I wasn't her anymore. So I replied, yes. The interview aired on a Friday evening. It was just 10 minutes, but those 10 minutes lit a wildfire. People from all over started messaging me. Parents, teachers, even strangers from other states. One message still sticks with me. "I found my daughter crying in her room after your segment. She finally opened up about being bullied at school. Thank you. You might have just saved her." That night I cried too. Not out of pain, but because for the first time I felt like I mattered. The next morning I arrived at school to find a swarm of reporters waiting outside the gates. Our principal had to speak to the media. Our school board wanted to formally recognize Project Diary. And suddenly I had a platform far bigger than I'd ever imagined. But as with any light, there's always someone waiting to cast a shadow. Alyssa. She'd been watching it all from the sidelines, stewing in the emptiness left behind. She tried one last time to reclaim the spotlight. She posted a video titled, "My Side of the Story." In it she cried real tears this time, or at least they looked real. She said she never meant to hurt me. Said it was just a stupid joke. Said she was going through a lot too. And then, she blamed me. Said I turned the school against her. That I profited off the drama. That I stole her friends, her peace, her life. The comments were brutal. Not toward me but toward her. "This isn't an apology. You publicly humiliated someone and now you're playing victim? You don't get to cause pain and then demand sympathy when the truth catches up." It spiraled quickly. She lost sponsorships. Her TikTok following plummeted. Her old friends didn't come to her defense. Because truthfully, they were tired too. Tired of pretending. Tired of walking on eggshells. Tired of cheering for someone who only celebrated herself. I didn't gloat. I didn't comment. I didn't respond. Because I wasn't living my life in reaction to hers anymore. I had dreams now. Bigger ones. I launched a blog called Words Unbroken, where students from across the country could submit anonymous entries. A safe space. A digital diary for anyone who didn't have the strength or safety to speak their truth out loud. And people came. Hundreds. Then thousands. Some wrote about abuse. Others about body image, anxiety, lost parents, shattered friendships, gender identity, chronic illness, racism, heartbreak, hope. They wrote things they'd never dared say before. And I read every word. Every single word. Because I knew what it felt like to write a secret and pray the world would never find it. But now I knew something else too. When that secret is seen with compassion, it loses its power to shame. It becomes a bridge. A lifeline. A light. Strange really. How something as small as a diary, just paper and ink, could become the spark that set fire to everything I thought I knew. Looking back now, I don't hate Alyssa. I don't forgive her either, not completely. But I've made peace with the part of her that needed to tear others down to feel tall. Because that used to be me too in a way. Afraid. Desperate to belong. Willing to shrink myself to fit into spaces that were never built for me. But not anymore. Now I walk taller not because I'm louder but because I've stopped apologizing for being soft, for feeling deeply, for needing space to breathe. Senior year came and went. I graduated with honors, delivered a speech about resilience in front of hundreds. And when I looked into the crowd I saw faces I once feared. Now they clapped for me. Not because I became someone new, but because I stopped hiding who I always was. My parents still keep that notebook in a drawer. The one Alyssa read aloud to the world. Pages dog-eared, the ink smudged from the tears of a much younger version of me. The last time I saw it I smiled. Because now I own those pages. Every fear. Every hope. Every line she thought would destroy me. I took back the pen. And rewrote everything. I now attend a university where vulnerability is strength, not weakness. Where I lead mental health workshops and help younger students find their voice. Where I read letters from people I've never met who say, "You made me feel seen." And that's worth more than any popularity contest, any viral video or cruel joke. Alyssa. She faded from the spotlight, slowly but surely. She transferred schools before graduation. I heard through someone that she deleted all her socials and started fresh under a different name. I don't stalk her page. I don't linger on memories. That chapter is closed. Because I've learned, revenge doesn't always come wrapped in fire or fury. Sometimes revenge looks like healing. Sometimes it's waking up in peace. Sometimes it's being the girl they tried to break. And still rising anyway. So if you've ever felt like your voice didn't matter, if someone took your truth and twisted it, laughed at it, exposed it for applause, let me say this. You're not broken. You're becoming. And your story? It's just getting started. If you've ever been betrayed by a friend you trusted, let this be your reminder. Your story doesn't end in silence. Comment, "I took back the pen," if you're claiming your voice again. And don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel for more real, raw stories that remind you, you're not alone. Every day we tell the truths others try to bury. So hit that subscribe button and let's rise together.